Frontier.
Hello, friends and fam, and welcome to Fandom Frontier. I am one of your hosts, Handsome Dave.
I'm your other host, DJ Sivo.
And for those of you who don't know, it's been a hot minute since Devin and I have been in the same. It's been a month, which is weird for us. Like we don't go like more than like 2-3 weeks without hanging out.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of changes. I guess I'll go first.
Yours is gonna be the longest.
Yeah.
Even in my own head, Dave's been keeping me updated on everything that's going on. I know he's going to say something that I completely forgot he was doing because of how much new shit he has going on.
I got to try and remember all of it. And I guess Penny wants to say hi too. So as of November, I am officially a screen actor. I've been doing a lot of stuff, background acting, and then I got a lead role in an independent movie. It's called Anthony and Ben Ruin the Universe. I got the role of Ben. Basically it's Bill and Ted meet Ghostbusters, except for if Bill was a demon, and I'm Ben, who is Bill the demon. So it's great and it's fun.
That's crazy.
Working with a little production company. He's just getting started. He's got big plans, and I love his dream. He's a great director. And we got a great cast and crew. It's so much fun. And then like I'm still doing background acting for like film. Like the peak for me was being on What We Do in the Shadows. That's like, you know me, you know that's like my favorite TV show. I posted a little bit about it on my Instagram, but the episode will probably air close to next Halloween. But like a guy gets full on decapitated in front of me and just covered in blood, and it's so cool.
That's so cool, man.
Yeah, and like you see me, like I freak out, I cheer, it's awesome. But like it's a lot of fun. Like I did, funny enough, I did The Bachelor.
That's still so wild. Did we mention it on one of the podcasts?
No, I
before?
don't think. I think maybe we did on
a lot of conversations.
I think it came up when we were drunk for the one chip challenge episode.
Yes.
Yeah. So that came up a little bit, but yeah, I was a stand-in on The Bachelor. It was a lot of fun. It was a good time. But it's just been like it's been very surreal.
You've been driving back and forth from Toronto pretty much every day.
I hate to admit this, that I actually love driving in Toronto now. I do it so fucking much. Like I know it's insane. Like I never thought just the fact that I'm driving alone, let alone, hey, I love to drive in Toronto now. To me, it just seems foreign, but here I am. I'm like, yeah, I love to drive to Toronto. And someone asked me for directions the other day, and I gave them directions in Toronto. I'm like, did that just come out of my mouth? Like, wow. But yeah, no, like I'm super busy. 2022 looks like it's going to be a super busy year for me too, and I mean between this and the podcast, like I guess there's a lot more ways to see me and annoyingly hear me sometimes.
And you still got, we've talked about it before, but he's still doing photography stuff.
Yeah,
you got your Hey Monsters going on.
Yeah, I do. Yeah,
please at
Shattered Frames.
Yeah, Shattered Frames. Find him. His stuff is really cool. I'm not kidding. I'm not just saying that because he's my friend. I'm literally buying some copies today.
That's awesome. I appreciate that, man.
No, but hey, it's cool stuff.
But yeah, no, it's I'm busy. I'm very, very busy. It's a lot of fun. I like keeping busy. This to me, I love doing this podcast. This is great. Like, I mean, we're now playing catch up. Like I said, you and I haven't seen each other in a month, which
literally
is
a month.
So foreign to me.
Yeah.
But like it's not like we weren't talking. Like we were texting. We just lived two very busy lifestyles.
Yeah.
So I mean, you got a family. I'm busy, so
yeah, man.
Yeah.
For me, stuff's still pretty much the same. I did get a full-time position at my current job, which is something I've wanted for a while. A little bit of a paid decrease because I don't get paid in lieu of, but now if I'm sick for a day or whatever, I can still get paid for it and benefits.
You got
and
your
all
ass
that.
covered.
Yeah. Other than that, just super busy with the family, trying to get ready for Christmas. Oh, my dad bought a Tesla.
Yeah, you mentioned that the other day.
Yesterday was the day
and you
where
weren't pooping in the Tesla.
No, I was not pooping in the Tesla. That was in the bathroom.
Yeah, okay, I noticed that. It didn't look like a Tesla when you said.
Yeah.
Devin sent me a photo the other day of just his face. I was like, I'm pooping. I'm like, thanks.
Yeah.
I needed to know that.
Fun.
Yeah.
So I drove him to the dealership, and it's crazy, man. The dealership in Oakville.
Yeah.
Like it's wild at the back. There's like the wall of cars.
Oh,
they said contactless. It wasn't. Still took about an hour. But my dad bought a Model. It's not the Model 3. It's the one up from that. I think it's the Model S. Not the SUV one. It's a bigger car. anyways, it's so incredible.
That's awesome.
So anyways,
man.
yeah, that's going on. So we're trying to figure out like my family Christmas stuff and stuff with Susie, last minute gifts and all that.
Yeah.
So and work, yeah. Nothing new for me. Just it's a busy time of year.
That's it. It's just a busy time of year for everyone.
Yeah.
So that's why like when we can find time to do this, like it makes me happy because I'm like, cool, we still have time for this. So
this is a big like I was really when Dave said let's record today, I was
we were
like,
all
it's
over
like,
it. We were all over it
because honestly, like I mean, again, we love that people listen. We love that you guys listen, but we do this for us.
I think I got one of my most favorite comments on our
I gotta
Instagram.
tell you about something too from one of your friends.
Oh, okay, cool. On our Instagram, we got a comment saying the bearded woman needs to shut the fuck up, and I read that, and I love it so much. I just like. That's the thing is like I'm not being like sadistic or like full of myself. I love when I get bad
Bearded woman needs to
bad
shut the
publicity
fuck up.
like that. I think it's
That's
hilarious.
so I love it too. I don't care. Make fun of me, whatever. You think I suck?
But the thing
awesome.
is, I don't like. I've gone back and listened to our podcast. Like I don't think like I like take over the like we do our fair share of sharing.
Yeah.
Like
I don't think. I mean, maybe it comes across like that sometimes. I'm the one, we've said it before, I'm the one that makes the questions.
Yeah.
So Dave's answers are often like on the spot and different. I already know ahead of time and I've sort of made up my answer
that's
in
the
my
thing, is,
head.
like you say your answers. Still.
I already
like,
know what it
yeah,
is.
Exactly.
So that's funny.
I think that's my favorite comment. I'm
Are
like,
you sure maybe it was at me?
I don't know. I just took like the long hair, the man
Oh,
bun. That's
okay,
what I mean.
right.
That's what I mean. Like
I
just
don't have long hair though.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I took that as the bearded woman with like the long hair.
That makes it even funnier. That's
right?
a great. Whoever wrote that, great comment.
Yeah, I screenshotted that. I saved that.
And also, why? I mean, if you do hate us, why are you listening?
I know, right? Isn't it hilarious?
Makes it even funnier.
I know. That's what I mean. Like I didn't take anything bad away from this.
That's great.
For me, it was hilarious. So one of my friends said something to you.
So I got a message the other day from Michael Myers. He said, "Hey man, heard you did Extra Life. Heard that on the podcast." And I was like, "Yeah, bro, I've been doing it for about 10 years."
Yeah.
Extra Life, I've talked about it before. It's the one charity thing I do every year. At this point, like the guys that I do it with all have kids. They're all married. We live all over the place.
Also, before you continue, I do have a friend named Mike Myers. That's
his real name.
Actual his name. Yeah. Also, shout out Mike. Hey, what's up, buddy?
Hey, Mike. So, all of us, I would say, of the 8 or 9 of us that do it, maybe 1 or 2 guys like end up not being able to come.
Yeah.
Which is crazy for a bunch of dudes that all have kids and are married.
And that's really good.
Yes,
like,
it's
that's
insane.
Really good.
So this might be some of these guys. The once a year doing this is sometimes the only time that I'll see them.
How do they can get out?
Yeah, and it's we're like we're so old to be staying up and trying to stay up and game for 24 hours. Anyway. Mike's like, what charity do you pick? And I said, well, most of the guys are from the Toronto area, so they always do Toronto Sick Kids. I always pick Mac, Sick Kids. He's like, that's crazy. You obviously don't know. I work for the McMaster Sick Kids Foundation. I was like, that's nuts.
Yeah.
And he asked me, he's like, there's a new rep that knows all about Extra Life and stuff, but doesn't really understand all about it. Could you, in the new year, come in and talk to her about it? I was like, absolutely.
That's amazing.
I've been doing it for so long, literally like at least 10 years.
Holy
at this
shit.
point, I've raised like, as a team, I think we've raised close to 20 grand for our respective hospitals over the course of the whole year.
That's the biggest takeaway from this. That's outstanding.
Yeah.
Like, I love that.
I am doing it this year. I will talk about it later on the podcast. I'm doing it with my boys in January, but I'll let you know Twitch links and all that later.
Hey, if you need an extra man, sign me up.
Hell yeah. Well, I'll let you know if you want to come.
Absolutely.
You're more than welcome.
I'm so down. We'll do a donation on behalf of Fandom.
Yep. I think we're doing it at somebody in the group got a new house. So we'll be going there. It'll be nice. We'll see if I actually make it the 24 hours.
If you bring me, you'll definitely make. I'll make sure you do.
I did not make it last year. I was like 2 hours short, and I was literally like sitting in my chair like this. There's always a couple guys. Shout out to Mike and Chris. They always end up making it. You know why though? They're huge Smash fans. So
that's me though. Like that's what I mean.
Always
like,
pick a new game to play. And then if that game gets boring or old, there's always Smash to go back to.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Anyway,
that's awesome.
That was really neat that he reached out.
That's really cool. Yeah, actually, no, it's funny because I never really thought of that, how that would coincide with this.
And he's like, oh yeah, so like, what charity do you support? Yeah, the way he said it was funny. So
that's amazing. So no, that's really cool. Like, yeah, it's small world. I mean, not really small world. Like we've all hung out together.
Hey, it means that's awesome. Thanks, Mike, for listening, and I'm really cool, and I'm super happy to talk to that rep about what we do when we do Extra Life.
Yeah.
So
That's cool. Actually, fun fact, so every year I do host a New Year's party, and this year I can actually host one again, like the Halloween party. It's casually turned into, and I haven't told you this yet, a Fandom Frontier New Year's party.
Damn.
Because we've got quite a few fans of our show coming to the party.
Hell yeah.
And I'm thinking maybe we do another New Year's confessional.
Oh, yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
I'm actually kind of excited about that.
Yeah.
So I'm just like, you know what?
That's a good idea.
Let's do this. So
Dave does parties really well, too.
Oh, thanks, man. I appreciate that. So, now that we've done playing catch-up, sorry to bore you all, but we needed to do that.
I hope you liked it.
I hope you liked it, because we liked it.
Yeah.
We needed it. Tonight's episode is on FanFiction. I'm indifferent to FanFiction. I love it because, again, as an artist, like, I can really appreciate it. I can appreciate someone's passion for a fandom. But the thing is, like, it's art for them.
Yeah.
It's an outlet, and I really
I'm with you, Dave. This is gonna be the one episode where I think it's definitely a niche and nerdy thing, but it's something that every other episode one of us or both of us were fans about whatever we were talking about. This is one too. I'm like, I'd like to talk about it a bit, but I'm not super into it.
You know what's great though? When we were coming up with the episodes, this was your pitch for this one too, and I'm just like, I even looked at you. I'm like, I mean, other than SCP, like that, because that's essentially.
We'll talk a little bit about
I
that.
figured that would come up at least once, but yeah, like I mean, other than that, like I don't really, I enjoy fan fiction when it's sent to me. But, like, do I actively seek it out?
No.
Not really.
No.
But, I mean, cool. We know a lot of our fans that listen, like, they like fan fiction. And,
yeah.
I mean, so let's fucking dive nose first into this.
Again, since I always kind of ask the generic question at the beginning because some people may not know. Dave, can you tell our audience, what is fan fiction?
So, in my opinion, fan fiction is a continuation of a story from a fan's perspective. So, you're given the beginning, so it could be the end of a story, and maybe that person isn't happy how that ended, or they want more. Mm-hmm. So they create this work of fiction that's not necessarily canon, but it is canon to them, and that's cool. And you know what? A lot of fan theories have come from fan fiction,
Absolutely.
too, in regards to the series, and I really like that.
Yep.
And then sometimes when studios like it enough, they're just like, you know what?
They will do
We're
it.
going to make that canon. And I really like that because, again, this is just another form of art for people. Is them creating something in the world they love to make it more personalized for them.
Being a fan to people that write fan fiction is again, like, it's not enough to just love whatever you're into. You want to make your own universe. I also want to say that on top of a continuation of a story, a lot of fan fiction is what if.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is like, hey, like the stories that came of it. The first one I think of, which isn't fan fiction, is the universe where Bruce Wayne dies and his dad ends up being Batman.
Well, that's actually canon, but
that's what I mean.
I know what you mean, yeah.
But that's something that would start off as, that's what I was saying, it is canon, but that's something that would start off as a potential fan fiction. I'm
Absolutely.
like, I'm going to make an alternate, the whole Marvel What If series could have all been fan fiction.
Absolutely.
And I think
actually,
that's really cool.
I would say Marvel What If is a prime example of fan fiction because it's creators having freedom with a property, being like, cool, you wrote this way.
The other one,
I want it this way.
Yeah. The other one that I was thinking of, which is it literally is fan fiction because it isn't canon, is the Star Wars anime series.
Yeah.
That stuff is, I mean, it's professionally done.
They do say that it does tie into it somehow, but right now it's
not considered canon. It's just love letters to Star Wars.
That's it. It's done in that anime style. Like, some of it's really nice.
Some of it's really nice. I didn't love all.
I didn't love all of it, but like it's not bad.
The last one was my favorite.
Oh god,
the Android one.
Oh my god, yeah.
It's essentially what's the robot boy's name? Astro Boy. Is it Astro Boy?
Like the OG?
Yeah.
Astro,
it's like Star Wars meets Astro Boy.
Yeah.
It's really cool. Anyway, so that's what fan fiction is. And again, like Dave and I said, we're not super into it.
Maybe that's our fan fiction for fan fiction.
Yeah. Ooh, that's meta.
Mic drop. Meta.
So, out of all the things that creates fan fiction, what do you think the best community for fan fiction is? So, like, I looked at this. I looked this up. You know, the number one. Take a guess. What do you think the number one thing is that has the most fan fiction?
I'm gonna take a guess at this, and it's because I have a sneaking suspicion. Harry Potter.
It is Harry Potter by a long shot.
And that's also my answer.
Oh, okay.
I actually choose Harry Potter. Now, I don't agree with what J.K. Rowling has said and done, but for some people who love Harry Potter, the fan fiction for them is it's to keep that magic of this world going, because they disassociate with J.K. Rowling now, but they associate with that world she created.
That's interesting.
And for them, it's a comfort. It's kind of like a religion almost.
Yeah, I never thought about that. Like, what happens when you have a creator of a thing that you then want to distance yourself from?
Exactly.
I think you want to go to fan fiction.
Absolutely.
And I'm sure, because there's so much of it out there, obviously some of it's going to be garbage.
Yeah.
But there's going to be some really well drawn and written stuff.
There is, and some of the fan fiction I've read from Harry Potter has been actually really good. And again, these are just creators that are just like us. They're fans, and they want to keep that story going in a way that they really enjoyed.
Susie helped me write some of these questions. Man, these spelling errors. Just so you know, Susie, when you listen, I can barely read some of these questions. How did you not? You did it on a computer.
Hotness, Susie, what are you doing?
Have taught ever written what bet community, like, anyway.
Did you have a stroke just there?
No, that's what something says. So I a couple shout out stuff that I think is really cool. Another big one for a show that it's not niche. A lot of people watch it, but it definitely has a very dedicated community. Supernatural.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah.
Because essentially, even in
the show, if that wasn't next to Harry Potter for fan fiction, I would be surprised. With most popular,
it was. I think it was number 3.
Fair enough. Like, as long as it's at least top 5, like, that's.
And I love that show. Have they made some bad decisions?
Oh
yes,
God, yeah.
Everything. But
when you go through like just like the writer's strike and like the change in writing and direction, and like you're 15 seasons still going, you're gonna make some pretty shitty decisions. Yeah.
And even the shittiest episode season, I still love.
Yeah.
I just have a very high standard for Supernatural because early on the show was literally incredible. It's if you like
seasons 1 to 5, gold.
If you like Supernatural stuff, it's awesome.
Yeah.
Another shout out, Lord of the Rings. And I think that one is a big one because obviously...
Well, just that world.
Yeah.
It's so rich.
It's crazy because the amount of books that Tolkien actually wrote, like, it's fairly small. Mm-hmm. So is Harry Potter, but I mean, the world that is created out of those books leaves so much open for people to interpret.
Exactly.
Because the Lord of the Rings themselves, I don't know if anyone cares or not, the actual most popular books, that series takes place in a fairly small amount of time compared to the Silmarillion and all the other books. So ultimately, there's this. It's the perfect breeding ground for fan fiction because there's so much that was never explained.
Yeah,
and it's left open like that on purpose.
Absolutely.
Right. So, all right. Knowing you, have you ever written or drawn any fan fiction?
Absolutely.
Okay, and I also put if not, but we'll just leave it. What is something that you would like to see? Like, what is something you'd like to see a studio or take on? Is there like a fan fiction you can think of that you would like to see made into like a movie or a comic book or something like that?
Yes, actually, there's yes to both questions.
Oh.
So
I want to hear your
first fan fiction that I wrote, because when I was growing up in high school and everything, one of my favorite PlayStation games was the Legacy of Kain series. Soul Reaver, Legacy of Kain, Blood Omen. I wrote an entire historia of the history leading up to Raziel becoming like the Phantom that he was. So like the beginning of the first game.
Damn.
For me,
that brings me back.
But the thing was, at the same time, that's when Lord of the Rings was coming out. So that was like I had inspiration from Lord of the Rings, but I made it like meets Anne Rice's Interview with the Vampire. So it's very dark and gothy, but this horror fantasy vibe. So it kind of took on vibes from like Diablo.
Ooh.
Yeah, and that's the thing is I had a lot of fun writing that. It was just a fun project. I never like posted it or shared it anywhere, but like
which I feel like there's got to be so much fan fiction out there that people just hide under their bed.
Oh God, yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was,
but it's probably there's probably some gold.
I'm just gonna address the elephant in the room, and it wasn't anything erotic because anytime
we're gonna be talking.
I figure that much because anytime when someone hears fan fiction, they immediately go to the erotic side of things, and that's to me that's fair. I get it because that's what's in the limelight, but there's more to it than just the erotic side 100%. Of it. So a fan fiction that I would love to see, I would actually love to read more, is Neil. I'm gonna butcher his last name. Neil Blomkamp's the guy that did District 9.
Blomkamp. whatever.
There's an entire story behind District 9.
Oh,
like, there is a beginning, middle, and end. And we only got the middle through District 9. There's so much more that I would love to see.
That's a great movie.
And I would into
sci-fi.
I would love to see the rest of that made. Like, when he produced District 9, it was actually a short film originally on YouTube, and they picked it up, and they like, I think it was Peter Jackson's studio was the one that funded it.
It's such a good movie.
And that was just the middle of the story. There's still an ending and there's still a beginning. There's so much more to that I would love to see made for Hollywood. Because District 9 to me was great. Like, it was one of my favorite movies of 2009, I think. Yeah, 2009. It was one of my favorite movies back then. I still love that movie.
Yeah.
And I would love to see more of that. District 9 was just so good.
I haven't thought about that movie in a long time. That's a really good answer.
What about you?
No, so I'm
Did
not
you ever create?
No. I'm not a good.
Okay, how about this? Have you ever thought of a storyline that you would improve with your own? Can I ask what it is?
Yes, I'm gonna get
okay,
it.
perfect.
So I never did fan fiction for two things. I don't like writing, and I'm a bad writer. I don't enjoy physically writing. I always struggled with essays. My brain works very logically, so my sentence structure is never artistic. It's always.
And this is why he's having a hard time with your writing, Susie.
Yeah, damn. And on top of that, I'm not a great artist. I'm terrible at drawing. I know everybody says with practice you can get better. That's true. But I think for any artist, whether it's a musician or whatever, there is some sort of innate talent that lets you get to a certain level.
There is, for me, like, and we've talked about it in the art episode. It's just finding your medium. Yeah. Because and that's the hardest thing, is finding the medium that. I'm
a paint by numbers kind of guy.
But there's nothing wrong with that. No, there's not. Paint by numbers is
relaxing.
Awesome.
It is. Yeah. So here's
your adult coloring book. With
yes.
Yeah.
So what I've always it's gonna sound. You know what I always thought would be so fun if they made a Contra movie about bros. You know, like
from Rick and Morty, the two brothers.
Like Broforce meets and Contra, it turned into a movie. So it's not just these two guys, it's like these two jack dudes. They're always high-fiving and they're just being bros and they're killing people. Nobody cares. Make it into like a comedy. Like Contra in a comedy. So there's just these guys are murdering there's thousands of people and they don't give a shit. It's like, nice headshot, bro. I would love that.
Hate how much I love it. Especially because you started it with Contra.
Yeah.
Contra's just classic.
You know that picture of, I can't remember who Arnold is high-fiving, but it's them like holding hands and they just got the...
Oh, it's Dylan from Predator.
Yeah.
It's like, you son of a bitch.
That is the theme. That picture is the theme for the movie.
I want more of this. I want you to write this because this would be amazing. No, this would actually, I'm here for it. This would be amazing.
And there's obviously always somebody in the movie who grounds everyone in reality who's like, do you know how many people you've killed? Do you know how much this is costing the government?
Again, especially with Contra. Do you know how much that number would be astronomical?
Yeah, they're blowing up bases. They're fighting aliens. And nobody's talking. Oh, there's aliens are real. They're just killing them.
People think like Superman's fight with Zod was bad. Yeah. They would put this to shame. Yes. That's like that times 10.
Make that
happen. Make that happen.
So yeah, I do, and there's always stuff I'll think about, like. A big fan fiction thing that I like, and I'm glad that it did happen, and we talked about it before. I love crossovers.
Crossovers are amazing.
Ninja Turtles meets Power Rangers was like, that's so cool.
Yeah.
I want more of that. And I realize that big, rich companies often do not want to accommodate that because they love owning their rights to whatever characters, like what's going on with Spider-Man and Sony and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But I would love more of that. So, yeah. Contra, comedy. Super gory,
just a buddy cop,
like MacGruber kind of humor. He keeps doing the
so
throat rips.
That.
He keeps doing the throat rips. Ryan Philippe's like, that's disgusting. Stop that.
I am so here for that.
Yeah,
that is amazing.
And
then a fan fiction, or was that? Would that be?
That was it. In my head, I'm like, I could write that movie.
That's fair.
But I won't because I hate writing. So somebody else do it. Well, is there a fan... So this is kind of the same question, but a little bit different. Is there a fan fiction that you know of or would think of that you think would make a good movie series? That's kind of my answer with Contra. Is there something that you know of out there that you think you'd want to get made into, like, a series? You know how What We Do in the Shadows is, like, a little spin-off.
Yeah, well, that's a spin-off
of
right?
the movie.
Yeah.
So is there something like that? Is there like, I would love to see a movie about everybody that is like a behind the scenes character I want to see a movie about somebody that works at like the Avengers Towers and has to deal with all their cleanup. Like an office
like a damage control.
Yeah, an office worker who's like, oh, like they did it again. Why can't you guys just not blow everything up? And it's like somebody trying to figure out their finances and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So Tony Stark's off saving the world, and this person's like sitting there with a calculator trying to figure everything out.
Hi.
What about you?
That's actually
a normal person who works, and they're like, you work for the Avengers, but their job is terrible.
What? I got something really meta that might be really funny.
Yeah, tell me.
I want it as like, so this intern that works at WB was fired from the writing staff of DC Comics and now has to work at WB as basically work for the company that's now ruining the movies. Be like, hey, I have this idea. It's like, oh, that's really good. They go and do the opposite of it. It's like,
yeah.
And then it's like all like the Jim Halpard close-ups, like interviews, like,
yes.
I don't fucking get it.
I would love.
I don't get like. There's like so many ways that they could make the DC movies so good, but then it's just like the behind the scenes of them admitting, yeah, we fucked up.
Yeah.
I just think that would be so
amazing.
Funny. And then that's also WB leaning onto the fact that, you know, hey, we fucked up. Yeah.
You know what that reminded me of? I want to see a show about the security guard who's constantly chasing around the Animaniacs characters.
Yeah.
His life. He goes home at the end of the day.
Yeah, like
he hangs up his hat and he just cries in the shower. He's like, nobody respects me. And the studio's always yelling at them because they're always getting out.
He has like the basement like workbench where it's like all like pictures of them and like the string connected.
Yeah. Oh, I love anything like that. Anything where it's like
that's always, I have to be honest, that's a hard answer because you really have to stop and break that down and be like, how can I?
Yeah. But you gave a great answer.
Well, thank you.
Just take a background character in anything. Do the Matrix, but have a guy that just woke up, doesn't know what the fuck is going on. There's robots everywhere.
Yeah.
He's shitty at martial arts.
Yeah.
Do the opposite of what's cool. Make it funny. Do that.
It's kind of like almost Free Guy almost, right? Kind of.
Yeah.
But like, yeah.
Yeah, actually.
Yeah.
All right. So I wanted to ask you what you think about this, and I'm going to explain it to you if you don't already know about it. Have you heard about the recent Warhammer controversy?
No, I know that recently Marvel Comics did buy some of the rights to Warhammer, and they have been releasing their comics.
Okay, so I'll tell you.
But I know that it's all like a lot of people aren't happy about that because it's not lining up with the lore.
So in this controversy, what Games Workshop kind of did was they put out something how they are going to be very closely monitoring people that are using their IP.
Okay.
In the sense that they're, for people that don't know, the lore in Warhammer, there's lots and lots of books out there. But even in this giant universe, the fan community for Warhammer is insane. Mm-hmm. There's still so much stuff that's open to interpretation. So there's these guys, there's a couple channels that I follow where they do lore videos. And they talk about the different lore, and they'll connect things together, and then they'll put out their own opinion about what they think is going on. Games Workshop is kind of like, we might be stopping you from doing that. So there's people that have literally brought thousands of fans to Warhammer by putting these videos out.
Fan fiction.
Exactly. And then Warhammer, and then Games Workshop is like, well, you're kind of using our IP. We don't know. So there were a bunch of YouTubers who were like, our channels might get shut down. And it sounds like what they're trying to do, this is another thing, they're trying to move away from the tabletop gaming.
Now, do you know for a fact if they're making money off of their fan fiction?
They're YouTubers, so probably some of them get sponsors and stuff like that, but it's always been like, for example,
that's such a gray area.
Exactly,
because you're not making money from this. It's not like you're selling it, but at the same time you're making money from YouTube.
So like, for example, there's a guy that I watch called Luton. I love him. He's got this great voice. He does these amazing video. Does these great, but he got sponsored too, and it was by a paint studio, because obviously if you're into Warhammer and stuff, you paint miniatures. Hey, Penny. So, in that sense, like I said, it sounds like what Games Workshop wants to do, because there's rising costs and people are getting 3D printers and stuff and making their own miniatures, that they're really focusing on their video games.
Yeah.
And they're shilling out their IP to third parties who are making these very subpar games, and they're probably making a killing about it. How do you feel about those people that are making essentially a living off of Games Workshop IP, but they're not directly infringing on it. This is the craziest. This is the most in-depth question I think I've ever asked Dave.
This is a real,
that is a real controversy. And a lot of
because
people
I
are really
didn't
pissed
know
off
about this till now, and like I've been just trying to sit here and process that because I get both sides of it. I understand that because like Games Workshop, the original pioneers of Warhammer, I mean they are losing money from this because they are taking from their lore,
but they're also getting fans.
They're getting fans too, who are buying their products.
So far, I don't think any YouTube channel has been shut down. This was just something that was said, and a lot of people got really scared.
But the fact that they're thinking about it and still threatening fans—that's another thing to take away that I don't like.
In this case in particular, so in my opinion, it kind of bothers me.
I think there's a way around this that they could make everyone happy. Offer those YouTubers a contract from Games Workshop.
Yes.
And like that way they are considered Game Workshop employees as writers, and then that way they can work out a system where their Games Workshop is receiving a percentage, but then they get a commission of sales as well because they're essentially influencers bringing people in the door for them.
Yes, my problem is Games Workshop has done kind of shitty things like this before.
Oh, of course they have.
I think a model more like,
but at the same time, you are one of the biggest next to Wizards of the Coast. You're one of the biggest names in tabletop.
Literally
gaming.
those two.
That's what I mean.
And Wizards of the Coast also they get very, very touchy about their IPs.
Oh,
and
don't even
like
get me started with the Magic IP. Yeah. The Magic IP is a nightmare.
So, what I kind of think, a studio that I love, and every studio makes mistakes, they're not perfect, but Digital Extremes with Warframe, you start becoming popular and you start loving Warframe and talking about it, they offer people what they call partner. And you get your own like glyph and in-game stuff, so the more you play the game you already love, the more Digital Extremes is going to kind of help you out. It's not a perfect thing, but I think something like that would be better.
It's something that like...
Take these guys making this incredible stuff and sponsor them.
That's what I mean. Sponsor them. Like, if they sponsored them and be like, hey, use this product code, you'd be like, cool, we know that these people are basically being influencers. Like...
It's because we're getting heated.
Yeah.
She knows.
She knows.
So
Penny gets really anxious around, like, aggression or, like, heated conversation. So she's literally sitting on my lap and, like, she's like,
looking at you.
She's okay, Dad. He's okay. I'm like, I know it's fine. It's okay.
So... I thought I'd bring that up because I think it's really interesting. I do see both sides of it, but ultimately, I think these people that are making this content love you and love your product.
Yeah, there's a way around it.
Don't be a dick about it.
Exactly. There's a way where you don't have to be a dick and everyone will still benefit from it. And they're choosing violence over negotiation.
Yeah,
and exactly. I don't like that as a business practice, but at the same time, contrary to what I just said, this is also Games Workshop. That this is.
There's a YouTuber that I recently...
This is their model. This is literally their model.
Yeah. There's a YouTuber that I recently saw, a guy that I love, a science boy named William Osman. He's like cool projects. He recently put out a video about all the negative comments and kind of YouTube bullying and all that. And the one thing that he said, which I think rings really true for big companies, is relevancy, not relevancy. When you can relate to people, what do you call that? Like when you're on the same page. It's not
relation.
Well, yeah, something like that. Essentially, being normal, relatable. Relatability will bring success.
That's true.
Success leads away from relatability. The bigger you get, because people relate to you, means the further you get from those people at the same time.
What's the thing is, like, it's like you have to look even at us, for example. If we had a fan suggest an episode, I'm going to invite that fan on to host it with us. Why would I sit there and take credit for something that they did to help, be like, oh, hey, I helped them write this episode. Yeah, you helped us write it, and you're going to come on and host it with us.
But then let's say, okay, and then to sort of feed off that, somehow years from now, Dave, you and I run the third biggest podcast in the world, and we get thousands of those a day.
But then we be selective about that. Like we can't. We have to understand.
That's the thing, though. Yeah. That's what I mean. So the bigger you get, the less relatable you become, and then people start hating on you. So when it comes to a big studio,
at the same time, as a fan of that, like I would also see that as they get bigger, they still do that. Like you have to understand, like not every piece of fan mail gets read.
No. So that's my point. Is like. Yeah. I think that the bigger companies get, because they start off like cool and small, eventually when you become a certain size, you do start losing touch with what you started with, and that is a very difficult thing to maintain. There's even a bunch of game studios that are indie game studios right now that are getting really big.
Yeah.
And I feel like that is inevitable, and you just gotta keep touch with your fans. Because if you lose that, they're the ones that got you there in the first place.
That's it.
Yeah, that was good. All right. So, what we were almost talking about before, Rule 34. If it exists, there's porn of it.
I know. I don't like that rule. I mean, I get it.
It's true though.
Like, I mean, I look at Ghostbusters, for example. I'm like, there's a porn out there.
There's somebody banging Slimer out there.
Yeah, or Slimer banging them, and I hate that. I hate that so much.
So I bring it up because it is a big part of fan fiction, and fan fiction gets a bit of a stigma because of that.
Yeah.
But ultimately, do you think that, it's fan fiction? It's allowed.
I hate it. Of course, it's fan fiction. That for me to say it's not fan fiction would be me dismissing an artist, because at some point this person created this, and someone out there is gonna love it, other than them that created it.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, is that's art at its finest. And I mean, like, porn is art. I will say it, and it's the same thing. Someone out there is enjoying it. You created this. You put it out there, you had a vision, it's a fucked up vision, but someone's enjoying it. And that's, at the end of the day, that's exactly
no
that
kink shaming, right?
There's no kink. I don't kink shame.
So there is
if you want to be called a dirty little stapler, then you get called a dirty. I don't care. I will not.
The amount of Family Guy porn out there is insane.
It's insane. If there is a cartoon for it, there is porn for it.
100%.
And I hate it. I hate it so much. I hate it. But at the same time, I know I say I hate it. I personally hate it.
I've also seen a lot of Ben 10.
Yeah, Danny Phantom.
Oh,
Danny Phantom for me. I was like, oh,
he's a kid.
I can't even watch Danny Phantom now without it being like semi-erotic. I'm like, this is so messed up. This is so messed up.
So I also there's a YouTuber who is an artist. I can't remember her name, but this was recently asked about her. So she draws, and she's good looking as well. So there is a lot of fan fiction, erotic art of the characters that she draws. And somebody asked her about how she feels about it. And she says, well, personally, she's not a fan.
Yeah.
But she understands, just as a fan, that is
but
their
her
right
work
to do
influenced those people.
Exactly.
Right? So that's the thing. Is so it's just like, it's like a double-edged sword. She's like, I don't feel comfortable with that.
She's like, I don't like it personally. But you're asking how I feel about my fans interpreting. They're fans. They're allowed to. They can do what they want.
That's it. Like, the thing is that
she's like, don't share it with me. I don't want it.
I'm gonna say this right now. If someone drew some form of hentai of us,
oh god,
I'm not gonna lie, wouldn't like it. No. But at the same time, I appreciate the fact that you're a fan.
I might laugh.
I would. Oh my god, I would laugh too. Are you kidding me?
That'd be really funny.
But that's what I'm saying though. Is I'm just like, it makes me uncomfortable. But at the same time, I am very happy that we influenced you that way.
That, you know what it reminds me of?
That's the takeaway for me.
That quick gif of Sonic and Mario.
Yeah.
Sonic takes off Mario's shirt.
Yeah, that's it exactly. Yeah.
Gross, but hilarious.
But you know what I mean? Like, it to me, like, that would be the point where it's like, that's really disturbing. I'm not comfortable with that. But you know, at the same time, I'm very flattered that we affected you that much.
That much, yeah, absolutely.
That's the takeaway for me. Is I'm just like, huh, but thank you.
Yeah, that's and I mean, yeah, there's it's an outlet for a lot of people as well.
It is. It really is.
And if that's
both creator and the person viewing, you know what I mean?
Yeah. So keep on being you. If you write that
keep
kind of
doing
stuff.
your thing.
Yep. So back what we were talking about before. Would you classify SCP as fan fiction?
Absolutely, but like in the best way.
But the craziest thing is, though, for fan fiction to exist, doesn't there have to exist some sort of canon?
Absolutely.
But there's not. It's all fan fiction. So is it really fan fiction?
So it comes down to is this influenced by like creepypasta that's become real?
Yeah,
like,
I guess
is this internet like urban lore that's becoming that people want a more in-depth backstory and they want to flesh it out and make it real and turn it into fan fiction?
Maybe.
Like, this is what I mean. Like, for me,
SCPs literally all start as it's all fan written material.
Absolutely. And that's the thing for me is like, I really love that because it's SCPs are multiple layers. I watched one the other day that I just fell in love with, and it's SCP-4666. The old man. Where he comes for families with more than one children.
Yeah.
And like, there's two possible outcomes where he'll either kill the whole family and leave the one child left alive, and he'll sing to them. He'll sing to them really weird nursery rhymes.
I love that stuff.
And then, or the other outcome is he'll leave a gift, and the gift is like a normal object to us, but it's made of human remains. Like, the one is a toothbrush, or not a toothbrush, but a hairbrush, and the bristles have been replaced with teeth, human teeth.
Gross.
It's gross, but the thing
Amazing.
is, like, but this is what I mean. This is one of those SCPs that the art that came with it, and and then the story. I'm just like, this is cool. I can pick out Slender Man. I can pick out the woman in white in this. I can pick out like so much that's been influenced by urban legend and folklore and everything. And I'm like, this is a work of fan fiction, and I really like that.
I brought this up when we talked about SCP, but a big thing that I think SCP to me is a giant love letter to all fan fiction.
Absolutely.
So when that guy in Russia ended up pretty much trademarking SCP and then trying to make money off of it and monetizing it, the entire internet community rallied around SCP. Markiplier did a giant video on it. This Markiplier is huge.
He is, yeah.
Did a giant video. We need to help the SCP Foundation get it back into the public domain. Fuck this.
Why? They're trillionaires. They should have enough money.
But that's they were like, we need money for this legal battle. This is going to be a crazy thing. So like they made all their money, and like the guy that's handling it, the Russian, I guess, ambassador for the SCP Foundation that was dealing with it, technically probably could have just taken all that money, and he's constant updates about this is where the lawyers are at, this is where we're submitting, all the extra money that went past their goal, this is what it's going to. I love it so much.
So I'm going to make a statement here that's first I've ever told anyone, and just the first you're hearing about it because I haven't had a chance to talk about it yet. So I have started writing my own SCP.
Hey, my boy!
I'm going to submit.
That's amazing.
And I'm really, because I've been reading a lot about them. I've been reading into them. And there's so much that, like, not even just that, like, I'm getting back to our paranormal episode, but getting back to some stuff that I've seen and can't explain in my life. I'm like, there's some stuff that would make an amazing SCP. And, like, again, looking back at the comics we've read through book club, I'm like, if we take parts of this and parts of that and parts of this and parts of that and combine together, isn't that what a fan fiction is?
There's so much. Yes,
there's so much. And that's me writing a SCP dossier. And
I love it.
Like, and when I'm done, I'll let you read it. I'm not going to tell you what it is.
No,
I'm not
don't.
Tell,
I want to be surprised.
I want you to be surprised.
Oh yeah.
And I want it to be a real submission on my part. And I want to see it get published as part of the SCP community.
Yes, and I think, I don't know how often they do it, but every whatever guys are the moderators of SCP, I think it's
even if it never does. Like I just know that
still,
I wrote this.
Submit it because what they do is whenever they say, hey, we need ideas for what the newest SCP 5000 is going to be, they take the most popular submissions. You can read through like the top 10, and then you get to vote on it.
Absolutely.
I love you, SCP.
Yeah, I love I'm so into SCP now because of this podcast, and I just it's now consuming, and because of like what I'm writing for both comics, like both creation and the games we play, like the supernatural elements that I'm writing for those. I'm like, wow, this would make a great SCP, but I'm not gonna do that. So
I love it. I love it, Dave. I can't wait, man.
I'm really excited.
Also, shout out again, if you haven't read SCP, go do it. But also check out our
podcast.
Check out our podcast on it, please. And also go watch the YouTube movies. Mm-hmm. Go watch Overlord.
Yep.
It's really fucking cool.
It is.
All right. So I got a couple examples here. Okay. I know you're not really into fan fiction.
I'll do my best.
But if you had to pick a favorite genre of fan fiction, I'll give you a couple examples. What would it be? So, for example, the one genre is called angst, and it's where you take a good character and you make him bad and angry. Okay. So kind of like a Red Hood kind of thing.
Okay. You should have really not started, because now I'm leaning into that really.
No, there's more.
Okay.
Soulmates. Take two characters that are completely unrelated, make them join.
So like the ships that people make, like
sure.
Yeah, gotcha.
There's a crossover, obviously.
Okay.
Dark fiction.
Okay, that one.
Alternate universe. Yeah. There you go. Now you know where I'm going. So, what do you think if you were going to get into some kind of fan fiction, what do you think of those kind of examples do you think would be your favorite thing? I know what mine is. Do you want me to go first?
Yeah, you go first because like
angst.
For me, I have to narrow it down.
Yeah, so for me, I'm going to say angst. Anytime you take a good character and make him bad, or at least different, and you know, one of the first things that comes to mind, it's not even fan fiction, Supreme, is it Supreme Iron Man? Superior Iron Man? Stuff like that. Because to me, it's not necessarily that you're just making a character dark or good, make a good character or a bad character be like a good guy. My favorite thing about those kind of fan fictions or any of that kind of stuff is the way that the character gets to that point. Red Hood, for example, the fact that he was tortured to get to the point of where he is. The Batman story that I told earlier, losing your son makes you become a vigilante that kills people. I love that. I love the Superior Iron Man one is, well, I mean, he's dick, but it's a virus.
Of course.
So stuff like that, it makes me love the angst fan fiction genre so much, because you can write very one-dimensional characters. You can just say Captain America in my version is just a bad guy. It's like, okay, well, that's a little boring. Why is he a bad guy?
Yeah.
Maybe Captain America finds all the horror of World War II and comes out of it a broken man.
PTSD.
Yeah, as opposed to the
very real thing.
Yeah, as opposed to the hero that came out, and he thinks it's the government's fault, and now he's going to become some sort of Captain America. I think that would be a super cool story.
There's actually a storyline that does exist, but I'm not going to diminish that because I do like that. I like that a lot.
Superman gets his pod lands in Russia.
Yeah.
Red Sun.
Which
again, is not necessarily a bad guy, but he's got all these crazy Russian ideologies, right?
That's it.
Okay, so that's I love the not necessarily the change from good to bad or bad to good. I love the story of how those characters get there as opposed to what their actual canon stories are.
Yeah, no, makes sense.
What about you?
So yeah, I had some time to think about it. I think, can I do two in one? So I would do the angst with a hero, but almost alternate world, because adding the butterfly effect of their actions. So
very interesting.
For instance, it'd almost be kind of like a time travel paradox, where it's just like, oh, this person wasn't here to save that person. This person died, and this new techno-organic virus was created, and that person wasn't alive to stop it. You know what I mean? Like, it's a butterfly effect of this person making this decision out of anger, the butterfly effect of that, as opposed to like the original good decision they made, and then it spirals out of control from there. Like, what if there's a storyline, like, what if, for instance, the amount of times Batman didn't save the Joker?
Yeah.
What if one time he just said nope and just let him die?
Yep.
And what if something worse came from that? You know, it's kind of like, because I love the butterfly effect. I love the idea of the butterfly effect, and I feel like a story, especially fan fiction created behind that, can be done really well.
Yeah, to the point where I think, and I've thought about this, what about a version in Spider-Man? Well, there is versions like this, but what about the one where Mary Jane is supposed to die?
Yep.
And she doesn't, but that actually turns Spider-Man into a bad guy. Maybe their relationship turns really sour and they get married and divorced. Yep. And then Spider-Man is just, again, like somebody that's broken and ends up turning to crime for whatever reason. So in this one, you're like, well, that's a good thing that she lived. But actually, it's like, well, for Spider-Man to be the Spider-Man that you know of, Mary Jane has to die.
And she does, yeah.
Right? Stuff like that.
Well,
his Uncle Ben not dying. Maybe he was there to save him.
It could,
but it changes everything.
It could be like a Gwen Stacy thing too. What if he actually saved her and it was like the worst possible outcome he could have done?
Yeah.
Like, what if Mary Jane became Otto Octavius in the end of it? Like that world's version of it.
That
Something
version
like
of where somebody goes back in time and kills Hitler, and then we actually end up having like some sort of worse world war or something like that, right? That probably wouldn't happen. He probably deserved to die if you could die.
Well, again, that's something we don't know though.
We don't.
That's it. And that's, do you want to fuck around with that?
Yeah, was that the Simpsons one where Homer sneezes and then everything just dies?
We talked about that in one episode too. Yeah.
Oh
boy, and that's funny, because that was the one that I was talking about, where it's like that gave him the world where it rained donuts, and then he didn't stick around long enough for that. It's like, that's a situation where
you could have had donuts.
You could have had everything. So yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So when I read that, I was like, because I was looking at fan fiction, I was thinking about questions. And I was like, genres of fan? What do you mean genres? I started reading through it. I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe of how much alternate. Maybe you consider the inside part of WandaVision like an alternate universe of
absolutely.
You know, Okay. Last question that I want to ask, and then we'll do our other thing.
Of course.
What do you think about? It's not really a controversy, but there has been some stuff recently, especially with Marvel, but it would include DC.
Mm-hmm.
And how much do you think the author owns the material versus the company? So this is a big one. So recently, a lot of authors have been saying that the contracts that they've been given or have with certain publishers have been really bad. So they make this amazing stuff and the publisher makes a ton of money off of it, and they don't own the rights to their works. It's been going on for years with musicians.
Yeah.
You want to make it big, you sign a really shit contract, and then the publisher is making a ton of money and you're making a little bit. In both sides, I see where it's coming from. How do you what do you think about that?
As a creator myself,
yes,
I know that those contracts, because you're essentially an independent creator.
Yep.
You're not licensed by the company. It's the company essentially purchasing your work to be used. I know it's a different style of contract. There's a lot, like, from what I've seen too, like, certain companies do give creators a lot of freedom, but certain ones, like, you can see them coming from a mile away. Like, you see the warning signs, don't do it. Like, a lot of people stop doing it for the love of the art and start doing it for the love of the money, and that's when they don't care anymore. And that's unfortunate, because that's where we hear, oh, they took advantage of me. I'm like, yeah, but how much of that was your fault for leaning into that? Because you read that contract, you know what's going to happen. It's like you get your story that you've created taken away, and then it gets changed, but like, there were warning signs for that. Yeah.
It's difficult, and I'm gonna agree with you on that. But like a prime example, I know that I've heard, especially from, like, I'm gonna pick some rappers as a prime example. A lot of what they're writing about is because they are in impoverished communities, and they know if they don't make it with this rap game, as Biggie says, they're gonna be slinging crack rocks. They don't. So essentially, they sign a terrible contract to some shitty record label because they have no other choice. And then they're stuck doing a couple albums for them. And that sucks. And yeah, you could say, well, that record label is shitty for exploiting that situation. But they're also, they got to pay the bills. And they are putting themselves out on an unknown person. This is people that haven't made it yet. Yeah. Obviously, if you make it, once your contract's up, you can renegotiate for a lot more money. But they're putting all the risk on themselves. Yeah. I saw, and this is just something that I saw, I don't even know who it was. I have no idea these characters. It was a short on YouTube, and it was a guy talking to another guy who was a videographer, and he said, how much is this video going to cost or whatever? He's like, it's going to be over like $1,000 for this picture or whatever. And the guy who's taking the photo says, look, I won't charge you for whatever I'm doing at all. But instead, every new customer that walks in your door, I want half of that sale, every new customer. And the guy's going, man, like, oh, that's a lot. I can't, like, I know you're going to make a dope video, and I'm going to have a ton of new customers. And he's like, yeah, this is the videographer again. He's saying, yeah, but I'm taking all the risk. He's like, yeah, you're right. I know that I'm going to make this for you, and you're going to get way over 100 new customers. I'm going to make my 1,000 and more back. But I'm taking all the risk by making this for you. Or you could just pay me the $1,000 or whatever it is, and I'll make it for you, and you got nothing. But he's like, because I'm taking all the risk, I know I'm going to make more than 1,000 because it will make you a dope product, and you will get a bunch of new customers. But I'm taking the risk. It's the same thing with these big companies. It's just, I'm almost rooting for the bad guy at this point. These big companies, I get it, they're shitty.
It just seems like such like a huge gamble to me. You know what I mean? I as a creator, I'm not comfortable with that big gamble.
As the company, if they're asking for a lot because you're new, I think it is important that, yes, there are companies out there that do things very exploitively, if that's the word. But at the same time, originally, if they're paying for you to go to record or draw, and they're paying you for their art, and it doesn't pan out, you don't owe anything. Exactly. They owe everything. Yeah. But I'm not rooting for them because, again, as a struggling artist and you're forced to sign this, you make that company a ton of money. You're still just playing with your pud.
Yep. Wow. That was the way you went with that one.
Yeah. But again, like, I know, especially as an independent creator, you got a prime example with your photography.
Yep.
maybe you get a dope ass photo and a bunch of people make a bunch of money off it. But if you were doing that on whatever, and the photo might not even belong to you, which is such a crazy thing in my idea. Making art and then that art itself or an original IP idea not belonging to you is wild.
Yeah. Be like, oh shit, this wasn't original after all. Like that's.
So we went kind of off topic, but I was asking though, do you think it's fair for these artists that are making some dope ass shit for Marvel to ask for more? Or do you think that Marvel deserves it because they're giving them the outlet?
It's not even that. I think when it comes especially to like big companies like that, like empires at this point, it's not even a company, it's a big empire. I think at that point, when you get into bed with them, you know what you're getting into.
Yeah.
And I don't feel bad for those artists because one, that company is massive. That empire is massive. You're making very good money. If you're going to go into something like Marvel, you know what you're signing on for. And if at that point that's
be
still
smart.
If you're still not happy, then you might be greedy.
Yeah.
At that point, you have the chance to work for Marvel Comics. That alone, like where is the roof at that? Like that is incredible. As an artist, like who wants to make it big, and you are now working for Disney, Marvel, Star Wars, like the biggest names in entertainment right now, and you're still not happy?
Yeah, man.
That's a problem.
Disney Plus it went from a channel, it's like, oh, well, I guess I'm going to get it because Tegan's going to want to watch The Lion King at some point, to like, holy shit, look at all the stuff on here.
Well, then they acquired Fox.
Yeah.
Look at that. Like
Marvel,
I never
Fox,
thought I'd
Star
see the day
Wars.
where Always Sunny in Philadelphia would be on Disney
Plus. That's
right?
so wild.
Right? And that is the show for horrible people, but it's so funny.
It is. It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia is the exact opposite of what Disney represents as a company.
Exactly. You have Danny DeVito standing at the foot of a bridge yelling "Suicide is awesome."
And then I started blasting.
Yeah, and I started blasting.
I want to say that as somebody like I'm a musician, but I never did anything professionally with that. I see both sides, and I think Dave's answer was really good because I just thought, well, which one do you side with? But it's like a little bit of both. Be smart. If you're an artist in a position to do commission work or anything else, just make sure you know your rights and make sure you know what you're signing.
Yes.
You know?
That's what I mean.
Because there are companies that will abuse you, but there are also companies who are like, hey, let's hold hands through this process and both make each other some cheddar.
Those agreements.
Yeah.
Read your agreements.
Or get a lawyer too.
You have to. Especially with something like that, you have to.
Yeah. So yeah, I love anyone out there that's got in one of those positions. I wish you all the best and be super successful and awesome. And I love you for making awesome content.
Yeah.
Whoever you are out there.
Exactly.
Yeah,
that was it. So this is where we generally do book club. We had a little bit of a discussion about it, and it's not that we weren't enjoying it. It was just more research that we had to do because not only did Devin have to read them, I had to sometimes reread them.
Yeah.
And with my busy schedule, Devin's busy schedule, we've actually made the executive decision we will no longer be doing book club per se. We'll still give recommendations in regardance to the field that we are talking about or the theme of the night. So like especially with fan fiction, I'm going to highly recommend it again. SCP. Honestly, if you are looking for good fan fiction that is just in a rich, dark, mythical, horror, comforting world, it literally touches on everything.
Yep.
I recommend SCP. SCP's great fan fiction.
Please, if you're into anything like that, it's just amazing stories about things that aren't normal. They're not even necessarily bad. Some of them are really good or funny.
Yeah.
I'm gonna recommend podcasts, ours, of course. But also, if you want to listen to people talk about things they love, find a podcast that you're interested in.
Yes.
I hope ours is the one you pick, and you're already listening. So
was that advertisement for
us? But there's also like, I'm not going to mention any podcast I in particular like because I want you to get out there and just discover your own. But maybe you're really into D&D. There's great D&D podcasts. Maybe you're a huge movie buff, specifically movies in the 40s or 50s. There's podcasts about that.
Absolutely.
There's podcasts literally about everything, and I know that a lot of people are over it at this point because every celebrity, when they get old and burnt out, they get a podcast.
That's literally us. Hey, I have a podcast.
Yeah, I know, and it's stupid and it's dumb, but you guys are here for the journey.
Cringe every time I say, I'm like, oh yeah, I have a podcast. Yeah. I'm like, listen to yourself, you dumb fuck.
Yep. But we love it, and
but we have it. We have fun with it.
So
exactly.
I
just make fun of myself. That's what it is. It's just like everyone and their mom has a podcast, and I'm just like, I have a podcast.
One that I will shout out in particular, because I'm a huge Scrubs fan, is Fake Doctors, Real Friends. Yeah. So essentially, if you love Scrubs, Zach Braff and Donald Faison as friends in real life.
The stories they share about filming Scrubs is just
that's
my
it.
favorite.
So they rewatch episodes, and then they talk particular about certain scenes in the episodes, but then they give this crazy behind the scenes info about what they remember when they were filming. Yeah,
Ryan Reynolds, I think, is my favorite one from them.
Yeah, what they remember about what they were doing during the filming. Donald Faison in the early years was like, I don't remember this at all, guys. Like, because apparently when they first started doing Scrubs and they actually started making some money, he was just high.
He was high all the time. All the time. Yeah.
It's like, I don't remember that. They had a place together. Anyway, that's my one.
Fake Doctors, Real Friends. Definitely check that out.
Really fun.
That's good.
And yeah, guys, go fucking, or listen to audiobook. I don't know. Do your thing.
Yeah. So that closes the pages on FanFiction. Sun is getting low in the sky, so lower your swords, put away your dice, and power down your consoles. You traveled far on your adventures, now rest your weary heads. Good night, folks!
Good night, guys.
Okay.